All right, Miss Woods. You saw here that it had the DOK 3. Now, I want you to see the questions, and you'll see them on here that I said that you could have used placing into this lesson.
Yes.
I said, can you predict the outcome if blank? What is your interpretation of this text? Support your rationale. What information can you gather to support your idea about blank? As you see, those would have been good questions that could have been placed in there. And so, with me providing you this, you're able to keep it.
Okay.
So you will be able to utilize these questionings while you're in your teaching. You're able to prepare during your lesson while you're preparing your lessons. You're able to also utilize these questions and put them into your lesson plans so that way you can kind of go ahead and know what questions that you're asking.
Okay.
The last thing that I had was I noticed, and I honestly felt that it was more because of time. And you talked about pacing.
Yes.
Because the class that I saw was from 1:50 to about 2:45.
Yes.
So it was at the end of our day where you only had about 5 minutes before wrap up, before the bell rung. So I thought it was more of where I saw a lot of teaching talking, where a lot of teacher talking, instead of where it was a lot of facilitation.
Yeah.
And I thought it was more just because of the end of the day. But I will tell you, if you look at the very bottom,
Okay.
you will notice where I broke down the whole lesson. First, it started with the PowerPoint. The students did a turn and talk to determine the genre. Then they talked about the background of the characters and the author. Then they talked about the learning target. As you kept going through the lesson, you began to read chapter 1. Then they did cooperative learning, and then they did the quick write.
Yes.
That summed up the entire lesson. But I want you to keep looking. If you go from here and you flip over to the next page, I looked at what you can look at it right there.
Okay.
I looked at the two things that you had the most. And if you look at them compared to this list to that list, you will notice that what you did was the background knowledge of characters and author.
Yes.
That was just the teacher talking. Okay? The reading of the chapter 1, that was just the teacher talking. When I look at the time span of those two items compared to everything in this entire lesson, that's the meat of the lesson.
Exactly.
And so that's where I was like, okay, it's too much teacher talking.
Yes.
Even into the PowerPoint, there were some slides of where when he talked about the background knowledge, that the kids would have been able to do the popcorn questioning.
Right.
And so I've noticed that, and then also with reading of chapter 1 of where the kids would have been able, if using equity or just using popcorn reading, they would have been able to interact with you through the text, where you could gauge them on expression, you could gauge them on dialogue tags, different types of things to use within their literature of while they were reading. So the only two things, like I said, the lesson was phenomenal, but the only two things that I did see for room of improvement were the higher order thinking and creating higher order questions, but we got that covered now.
Yes.
And then the last thing was making sure that your pacing is pretty much on a time span, so that way you can make sure that the kids are being able to be more of the teacher and you are more of the facilitator. So that was it. But I thank you for allowing me to come into your classroom. This was a phenomenal lesson, and like I told you, I did go brag to Dr. Gita, and I will be bragging to the rest of the faculty on Monday. So I am really excited. It was an awesome lesson, and I just thank you for allowing me to come in.
And I thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thank
Thanks, Ms.
you.
Woods.